I always come back to done is better than perfect. That's my go-to always for anybody who's like thinking of taking the leap. I've been iterating and reiterating and working on this Show Me Your Drills course, and it's still not perfect, but I've been able to quit my job on it and have a really crazy past 2 years because done was better than perfect.
What's going on? You're listening to episode 110 of the Perspective Podcast, and I'm your host, Scotty.D.Russell of Perspective Collective. This show is fuel for your mind and creative grind. Each week, my guests and I provide the tools for thinking bigger, overcoming adversity, and making an impact with your work. At the end of each episode, I share a listener of the week, so stick around to figure out how you can get a shout out on a future episode in the show notes and newsletter as well. This episode today is brought to you by our friends at Crop Conference. Crop is a 2-day celebration of creativity, community, and inspiration. They bring in the world's top creative talent like past guests Draplin, Lisa Congdon, and Tad Carpenter. Their upcoming April 18th and 19th lineup in Baton Rouge, Louisiana is no exception. Stick around for a killer promo code, and in the meantime, check out their Instagram, CropCons, or cropcons.com for the full lineup. Now let's get settled in. Sometimes we want something, yet the desire isn't strong enough because we don't put in the work to attain it. Many of us have this creative side hustle dream we'd love to live out, but the biggest thing holding us back is ourselves. And straight up, much of it falls on lack of discipline and laziness. At the same time, it also falls on lack of clarity of your vision and the obsessive love of a craft. And with those two would then fuel your drive to make an impact on others. You know, those are some of the things that I feel we're lacking, and those are the things I've lacked in the past. So I ask you, how badly do you want it? Today's guest no doubt wanted it, and this episode will make you act on your wants. She's hustled her ass off outside a day job, doubling her yearly salary in 1 day of launching her first product, which is fucking crazy. She's built a calligraphy and crafting empire with an insane engaged tribe over 150,000 Instagram followers, and she has a niche community of 25,000 plus in her Facebook group, as well as courses, workbooks, and resources to help you master the art of modern calligraphy. I'm talking about Becca Courtice, who runs The Happy Ever Crafter, making shit look pretty all the way from Ottawa, Canada. I study and observe people, which I admit sounds a bit creepy and serial killer-ish without the right context wrapped around it. But I study creatives on how they show up, how they provide value, engage with their audience, the captions they use, the call to actions that they use, the simplicity of their language, all to provide you value and onboard you to their platform so they can serve you better. And how I see her operate her online business is truly inspiring as she puts her entire focus on becoming a master of her craft and then serving her audience by teaching them what they want to know. She provides free resources like letter addressing templates, mini courses, guides, and tutorials, which onboard you to the community where she then can transform you into a loyal ambassador for her tribe. While she makes it look so easy, I know there's a ton of strategy and business savvy that goes into her operations. So today, we go deep into topics like growing an online tribe and listening to your audience, making time to grind outside the day job and build a profitable business, scheduling your success and showing up with intention, the importance of routines, meditation, and your physical and mental health, plus tons of tips for her best use of brushes and markers. Her story, hustle, and ambitions parallel mine in a freaky, scary kind of way, but it lets me know I'm on the right path. I have no doubt this one's going to encourage you to show up with intention and take that next step in your creative grind. You can find the show notes of this episode filled with everything we talk about, as well as jam-packed with their work over at perspective-collective.com/110. And let me know what you think of this episode by taking a screenshot or video of you listening and tag me on your Instagram stories so we can connect. As always, keep an open mind and take some damn notes on this one, my friends. Let's go. Hello everyone, I'm sitting here with crafting and calligraphy legend Becca Courtice, aka the Happy Ever Crafter, on the show. And Becca, welcome to the Perspective Podcast. How are you?
Good, how are you? Thanks for having me.
Good, and you're in the capital of Canada, right? Ottawa?
Correct, yeah.
What's the weather like? It's getting super cold here in Iowa, so it's got to be super cold where you are?
Yeah, it's been snowing all week. just looked out my window and there's a fresh layer of snow on the ground. So yeah, it's pretty cold.
For those who don't know, you and me, by chance, randomly, spontaneously met through Lewis House Summit of Greatness Conference. And we were just in like the private Facebook group. And I don't even remember how it was. How did you even see it? How did this happen again?
Honestly, I don't, it was such a fluke. Like I barely spent any time in that Facebook group. And all of a sudden, Scotty.D.Russell posted in Lewis House's Facebook group. And I was like, I know that name. And I must have known it from your podcast. I'm a big podcast listener. And so I had definitely listened to your podcast before. And I was like, hey, Scotty, I know you. Let's hang out.
Yeah, it was great because I didn't know anybody there. I'm very extroverted, but I was really out of my element there and felt very intimidated. So yes, you were my first friend I made there.
Yeah, it was perfect. It worked out so well.
And then I saw your work. I'm like, holy shit, this is crazy. You're building an empire over there with your calligraphy and handcrafting. So let's see. For those who don't know, give us a brief Wikipedia page summary about yourself.
I kind of came into all of this by accident, honestly. I think I told you this when we met, but I was working in construction. I mean, not actually doing the construction, but my background is in interior design and architecture. So I was working for a retail company here in Canada doing architectural plans and project management for construction, which is so different than what I do now. And I just felt like I didn't really have a creative outlet. So I tried to learn calligraphy just for fun. I went to a 3-hour workshop here in town and just got completely obsessed with it, as I'm sure a lot of your listeners can relate and you can relate. And so then I just like fluke spur of the moment started an Instagram account because I didn't want to be sharing my crappy calligraphy with all my friends who didn't give a shit about it.
Yeah.
And I called it the Happy Ever Crafter, and it just kind of blew up.
When did you start this?
I learned calligraphy in October 2015. So it really hasn't been that long. But like I said, I got completely obsessed and I just practiced all the time. And then, yeah, once I started the Instagram account, people just really loved watching soothing calligraphy videos and it just took off. So I had a lot of followers starting to join me. And then my followers in Ottawa started asking me to teach calligraphy workshops. So I started doing that. Then the followers online who saw me teaching in person asked me to teach online, and it all snowballed from there. So I started teaching online, and the rest is history. Now it just keeps growing and growing and blowing my mind every day.
So really, you tapped into a market, something you're really good at, something you enjoy. There's a market for it, and then you pretty much just listen to what your audience is asking for. Is that pretty much all it is?
Absolutely. I had no idea what I was doing. I mean, I still don't. Like, if we're being honest, I don't have a clue what I'm doing. Every day it's figuring out a new challenge.
I have no idea either.
Yeah. And so, I mean, yeah, just listening to my audience and seeing what they wanted. And then, they asked me for something and I'm like, yeah, I could build that. And then I'll make it. And then it does well. And then it just keeps going and going and going. So
it's more than just calligraphy. You're more than just teaching drills and, the how-to of things. Where is the name The Happy Ever Crafter from? Because you do way more than just showing calligraphy. Like you go all out, you address envelopes, you make me feel like I'm not going hard enough when I address an envelope to people. Like I don't care about this person enough looking at your work.
Well, it's actually funny that you're asking about the name because it's a funny story and I don't tell it very often. I should have a YouTube video or something about this, because my original thought when I started doing calligraphy was that I was going to be doing not only calligraphy, but calligraphy and crafts for weddings. Like I really just saw myself making stuff for people's weddings. And so that's why it's kind of a play on words like happy ever after. And I was like, oh, happy ever crafter. So I really named it because I thought I was going to be in the wedding industry. And it's just hilarious that it's kind of snowballed like totally in a different direction.
At the same time, you could still use it and hit both avenues. Just do you do client work then much? Have you ever really tapped into that wedding scene? Because you do have that modern wedding calligraphy style that I know ladies are eating up.
Yeah, I do. I do still do client work, mostly because A, I enjoy it, and B, because I want to still like stay relevant and know what the trends are and know how to do them in order to teach them. I really hate when people are teachers who don't do themselves, if that makes sense. So that's why I still do it. I don't take a ton of wedding clients or clients in general, but the majority of the client work that I do is for weddings. So my name still works in that sense, but it also works for what I want to be doing more in the teaching side of things.
Like what kind of things are you taking on? I know you're doing like the attendance table seating kind of stuff on huge glass mirrors.
It's a lot of signage stuff, which is what I love doing. At the beginning, I was doing everything from, invites and place cards and paper products and stuff. And then I started realizing I loved the signage more. So it's seating charts and like welcome to our wedding signs, or just big, huge murals on glass at the venues and stuff like that, which is what I really like doing.
I pretty much just wanted to have you on so I could ask questions that I wanted to know, but this is a perfect time to ask it right now. So if you're drawing on glass, you use paint pencils first, right? And then you use like an oil paint from there on top, like a Sharpie oil based. What's the best way of drawing or writing calligraphy or anything on glass? I'm going to ask it right now. Yes.
I think people will appreciate it. That's one of the most common questions I get. I use a pencil called the Stabilo Aquarellable.
Got it.
I think sometimes they also call it the Stabilo All, and it's just a white pencil. It's kind of waxy, and you can use it to draw on glass surfaces. And then I use a paint pen over top. So it depends kind of what the goal of the project is. If the client wants it to stay on for a really long time, I'll use oil paint because it's more durable. If they want it to just be really temporary, I'll use water-based. But usually I use Sharpie. I really like Sharpie paint pens. And the majority of what I do is in white too. But if I ever need to use a lot of different colors and stuff, I use Posca.
Okay. Cool. I have everything you said here. That means I'm doing it right. So perfect.
Yeah.
How long until you were able to monetize this attention when it wasn't just a hobby? This is more than that. This is something I'm really pivoting towards now, is providing that service, solving that need, that solution, and providing value, onboarding people, the customer path, the funnel, all this and that. How was it when you got to that point where like, damn, I've built like 100,000 followers in my audience? Where were you able to monetize it outside? Because you do a lot of freebies. So do you monetize it just from like workshops and then client work and products, which we'll get into later?
No, the biggest part of my income comes from teaching online and selling digital products. I would say that's probably like 90% of my income. It's an interesting story. I just really had no idea what I was doing with it at the beginning. So if we go all the way back to when I had just started that Instagram account, and people were just starting to ask me to teach. So I decided on my Instagram account that I was going to do a little challenge. And at the time, now it's really, you see so many Instagram challenges and stuff like that.
It's overwhelming. I can't even keep up. You get asked to do one like every other week.
Yeah, there were none when I did this. There were a couple, and I must have gotten the idea from somewhere, but it wasn't as popular as it is now. And so I think at the time I had maybe 1,000 followers or something. And I decided to do the first round of what I call Show Me Your Drills, which is my signature course.
That was you?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. Yeah, I've seen that. Like, I didn't know.
Yeah, that's me. So, but what I'm talking about now is like the very beginning of it. It was when I had maybe 1,000 followers, and I decided to run this challenge. And when I say challenge, I'm talking like I posted a video in the morning of me doing a certain calligraphy stroke. And then I just said in the video, hey, you guys should also do this, and maybe just use this hashtag Show Me Your Drills. And honestly, I don't even remember where the name Show Me Your Drills came from. It was just like, it was so mishmash, put together, unintentional at the time. And I did these random, like really badly shot videos at the start, and people just decided to follow me and do it with me. So I think maybe like 100 people did it at the time. And that was January 2016. And then I had kind of forgotten about it. I didn't do much with it. The rest of that year went by. I was doing mostly client work and teaching in-person workshops, and still growing my Instagram following. And then the next January, I decided that I was going to actually use all the business skills I had learned that year and relaunch this Show Me Your Drills challenge properly.
What are some of those business skills?
I had been listening to podcasts. I had been like reading a ton of books, mostly just all in the online marketing space, understanding what a mailing list is and all of those kinds of things that just never would have crossed my mind in the very beginning, when I thought that all I had to do was grow an Instagram account. And at this point I had a really crappy website, but I had a website. So that was more than I had the year before. And I had a couple different ways that I could actually try and grow this thing. So I decided to actually put some effort into the Show Me Your Drills challenge. And so January 2017, I had it actually hosted on my website. So in order for someone to join the challenge, they had to sign up for my mailing list. So then I had it by email, which is way better than just having it on Instagram. And it absolutely blew up that year. So I think that first purposeful launch of Show Me Your Drills, I had maybe 10,000 students sign up for it. And at that point, I was just trying to give away free information. Like I was just trying to teach people the basics of calligraphy, and I had no intention of turning it into anything I was going to profit from. It was just a 30-day challenge. You're going to learn these strokes from me. It was kind of just more building an audience for me at the time. And then as soon as I taught people the basics of calligraphy, they just kept asking me, what's next, what's next, what's next? And that's when I made my first digital workbook, which was the follow-up steps to the drills.
Like words and phrases and stacking things or compositions?
It was literally just how to do the lowercase alphabet. So I have a whole workbook on that. And that was step one. So right after the drills challenge finished, I launched that first workbook. And I should also say that at the time I was doing this, I had a full-time job. Like I was just kind of doing things as I felt like I needed to. Hustling, for sure. Hustling. Yeah. So I launched that first one right after the drills challenge happened, and I doubled my annual salary from my job in one day.
That's fucking crazy.
Yeah. So that blew my mind. And I had no intention of quitting my job at that point. But that day, I remember distinctly being like, I just doubled my annual salary in 24 hours. Like, I think I'm onto something. Like, I genuinely had no idea the power that what I was doing.
And this is all just mailing lists, getting people offboarded, like getting someone from your Instagram to click on a link in your bio with like simple, clean, like a bio strategy. You know, you can be strategic with your Instagram bios. What's in it for someone when they land on your page? Briefly, who you are, what's in it for them? You know, and I'm on your page right now, and boom, it's immediately calligraphy, workshop, dad jokes. That's what you do. That's why people should care. Immediately learn for free with me. How is anybody going to pass that up?
Yeah. And it completely blew my mind. And so, yeah, I sold that first product. And then when we were done with the lowercase alphabet, then they wanted an uppercase alphabet. So I made that workbook. And then they wanted to know how to stylize it more. So I made that workbook. And now after I did that the first time, I had a whole series of workbooks that I continue to improve and relaunch twice a year.
Did the workbooks then turn into courses? You have online courses?
Well, the workbooks are the courses.
Okay, the workbooks are the courses. Okay.
At the time, it was just a workbook. Then it grew into a workbook and a video. So when you signed up, you'd get the workbook and I would email you a video. Now all of it is hosted on Teachable.
Okay, that was my next question is where you do your courses. Is it self-hosted or you actually use something Teachable? Okay.
Yeah, well, the first couple rounds, it was just directly from email and that was it, which is a real pain when you're trying to communicate with 10,000 students. The second round, I had a custom website built for it, which was also a real pain because every time I needed to change something, I had to use a developer. And then finally, in the past year, I've gotten it onto Teachable, and that is saving my life.
Is your whole website on Teachable?
No, just the courses. Yeah.
What do you host your site on?
WordPress.
Okay. I'm on that. I'm looking to get off, but I'm just asking everybody that question. So just to wrap things up about how you've built this empire, basically it all started with you just being interested in something, going bananas and batshit crazy of learning it inside and out, then teaching it, giving value to people, understanding that you're tapping into something and slowly scaling it by listening to your audience and being savvy, learning business, online marketing, all at your own expense on the side while you're hustling.
Yep. Absolutely.
That's why you're here on this show, because if you can do it, like, why can't we do it?
And honestly, every time I meet somebody or I have a friend who expresses how much they are interested in something, anything, I'm like, why don't you start a business around it? Honestly, like if I could figure it out like that, I think anybody could figure it out.
Can I ask what were some of your most like influential online business podcasts or audiobooks? Do you have any that come off the top of your head?
My number one biggest inspiration in business ever is Seth Godin, but I think everybody can relate to that one. Was
there a specific book by him, or did you read his daily blog? Or
I read, I think the first one I ever read was Tribes.
Yes, money.
And Tribes was really influential for me too, because we haven't even touched on this, but a huge part of how I've built all of this is my community, like just building community, connecting people with each other, building something bigger than myself is huge. And Tribes was the first book I had kind of realize the first book that made me realize that was an important aspect to online business. But his book, What Are You Going to Do with That Duck? Which I love the name of.
I haven't read that one. Yeah.
The cover of it is just rubber duckies. And it's not the same as the rest of his books because it's actually just a compilation of a lot of his blog posts from a certain time frame. And yeah, for anybody who doesn't know, Seth Godin writes a blog post every single day and he emails them out. So if you're on his email list, you get this like nugget of wisdom to your email every single morning.
It's like a sentence of just pure absolute
gold.
There, perfect.
Yeah. And this book, What Are You Going to Do with That Duck is like a super thick book, just filled with all of those blog posts compiled into a book. And so at one point when I was still working at my full-time job, I would wake up in the morning, do a meditation, sit down, open that book and read like maybe 1 to 5 of his nuggets of wisdom and then close it off. And so for maybe a year, I did that every day. And I just read through his book.
Wow.
Because it's a huge book. It's like, I don't know, 500 pages or something. But if you're just reading one nugget or a couple nuggets a day, it can take a long.
That's how to make something big, just in actionable steps, so it's not so defeating looking like you have to climb a mountain in a day. Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, and his wisdom is just like mind blowing every time.
I need to give a huge shout out to Matt and Ariadna Dawson for putting on Crop Conference. They've produced 5 sold out events in 3 short years through their crop and pop-up crop events. This coming up April is no slouch either. Expect 2 full days of workshops, speakers, after parties, and plenty of opportunities to build new relationships with like-minded people. That's most important. And this year includes big names like Lauren Hom, James Victori, and John Contino, to name a few. Plus, your boy's gonna be there too. So here's a podcast listener only deal. When registering for Crop 2019 in April, use the promo code PIZZA. I know, super original. Use the code PIZZA to be automatically entered to win a free ticket to their future pop-up crop fall event. Potentially, that's pretty much giving you 2 conferences for the price of 1, and you cannot beat that. Again, use promo code PIZZA, register at CropCons, like conference, CONS.com today, as I promise you this one will sell out just like all the other ones they've done have. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Ariadna. I love you guys. Something I'm big on too, and what I learned was super important after we connected at Summit of Greatness, was the community aspect, what you mentioned. And this is something I didn't even know I was doing, is building community, whether it's, the podcast community or the Perspective-Collective Facebook group. You should join it. Building these little things where you can understand what your audience and your listeners are wanting from you, or you can bypass the noise of social media, even if it is a Facebook group, but you have that direct access or a mailing list. How are you able to build your community? And did you know you necessarily were building one in the beginning? And then how has that brought you value?
So my Facebook group is called The Happy Ever Crafters with an S. Anybody can join that one. And then I have another one called Show Me Your Drills, which is for the actual course. But when I started the Show Me Your Drills course, I was wondering whether or not I should make a Facebook group for it, because I'm one of those people who doesn't join very many Facebook groups. I hate getting so many notifications. I didn't want to bother people, and I almost didn't do it. And then last second, I decided to make that Facebook group, and I'm so glad I did, because now I've just realized the power of seeing people talk to each other, and then me just like interject a comment every once in a while, and people get so excited that I'm actually a real person in there communicating with them as they're also meeting the other students in the course. So it's been absolutely insane watching that grow. But in the very beginning, like, it was still small. And honestly, the smaller it was, the more powerful it was, in a sense. And people always think, you need thousands and thousands of people in a Facebook group for it to be powerful. But even like, I think the first time, or right when I opened it, I personally sent emails to all the people who did the first round of Show Me Your Drills. I'm talking like the very first one where I had 100 people. I personally, from my Gmail account, emailed all of them. And I said, like, I'm going to do this again. I would love your feedback. I'm so glad you did the first one with me, blah, blah, blah. Reached out personally, got them all in the Facebook group, and they all became friends. And then they became ambassadors for the next one. And it all comes back to that, that book, I can't remember, or the quote, who said it. It was like 1,000 True Fans.
Yeah. I have an episode series. I just recorded. It's coming out. It's Kevin Kelly.
Yeah.
1,000 True Fans. So yes, it's a couple episodes back now that this episode is out. But yes, I talk about this. It's so true. 1,000 True Fans.
It's so true. So true. Like, I can't even explain how accurate that was for me.
Because if 1,000 of them buy $100 of your product, like anything you put out, $100 worth of it, you could make $100,000 in a year.
Yeah. And for me, it hasn't even been about how many of those fans are buying. I mean, they're buying because they're true fans, but the most important piece of that for me is that they're spreading the word. I don't have to do very much marketing for Show Me Your Drills. In fact, I've barely ever spent a cent on marketing for it, because people post about it on their own social media and people tell their friends, because it's such good value and the community is so great and it's such a good place for people to learn. So, I mean, those initial fans have just become like evangelists for the whole thing, and it's crazy.
Know, like, and trust for sure. And the fact that you show up as a human and you do the unscalable things of replying people or reaching out to people one by one, like, I think that's the biggest thing that's bring people onto your side for sure.
Yeah. I really make an effort to actually answer emails and messages and comments on Instagram. It gets a little bit out of hand every once in a while, and I have to kind of step back, but you can't understate how important it is to actually just be a real person, especially with how many people are coming out with online courses now, and how many, like we talked about at the beginning, how many challenges there are on Instagram. If someone's just going to put one up and not actually engage with the people who are taking part in it, it's not going to have the impact that someone could have if they were really intentional about, making the community out of it.
As you build your business and everything, what's like a typical day look like for you? Do you have a structured routine? Do you still do meditations in the morning? That's like one of the 7 habits of millionaires and everything. So
there's a book that I read that actually, I think it's called The 5-Minute Morning.
My Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod.
Yeah, Miracle
Just
Morning.
Finished it. Yes.
Yeah, that's the one. So I was doing that for a long time.
All of it, like the affirmations, the visualization, the meditation, the working out.
Not to a T, but I would go to the gym at like 5 or 5:30, come home, get my coffee, have a meditation, read Seth Godin's book, write a couple notes, and that would be my routine. And then I packed up my house and went on a world tour for 6 months. So that screwed things up for me. Then when I came back, I kind of had fallen off it, but I'm trying to get back on. I think that there's so much value in meditating, and I think people like tend to poo-poo all over it, but you'll hear from so many huge entrepreneurs that they meditate in the mornings.
That's all you hear if you listen to the biggest influencers, the biggest billionaire, millionaire podcasts, anything. It's all meditation.
I don't know. It does something to you after you meditate. Like your body just feels more zen. And so even though like some days I'll get super, super, super busy and feel like, oh, I don't even have that 10 minutes to sit down, I really try and make an effort to do it. But right now my days kind of look like I still get up and go to the gym in the morning, and then come home, have a little breakfast, answer emails, make sure there's nothing burning in my inbox. And then I have a project manager now. So she makes me, we use Asana, which is like a project management tool, and she makes me a list of tasks that I have to do. So it's kind of awesome where I can just log in and see what I have to do for the day. So it didn't used to be like that, and it has changed my life. And this is just in the past 6 to 8 months, I think I've been working with her, and it's been absolutely amazing.
I'm going to have so many follow-up questions for you after this, for real.
Yeah. I mean, if you can afford to, project manager changed my life. But before that, it was really just being really strict with an actual paper planner and figuring out the night before what I needed to do the next day. And then I would go to the gym, come home, answer my emails, and then get to work and finish my task list for the day.
Most listeners have a day job, and I can't stress enough how like scheduling your success, like planning out your day, because you only have so much time left outside of your day job. I think it's like 156 hours in a week or something like that. What are you doing outside of the 40 hours of work and sleep? You got to pencil that stuff in. So that's encouraging, because I'm like a schedule freak, even though I'm not a very organized person. Oh,
I have like, I think 4 paper planners on my desk at any given moment for different things. I'm always planning my time. Like you'll see, I schedule in 5-minute things like, yeah. I got to run to the post office, which is literally at the end of my street. I'm going to put that in my planner. And I was always like that. I was like that when I had a full-time job too. And I'm talking about like advanced now with a project manager and she makes my task lists. But I was getting up when I had a full-time job. I had to be at the office at 7:30. So I would get up at like 4:30, work on my business, go to the office, work on my business at lunch, come home, work on my business until I went to bed.
You're giving me goosebumps because that's exactly what I'm doing right now. And that pretty much, I'm like, damn, if she's at this, she scaled it to this point, like, why can't I?
Yeah, so I make it sound like I did all this by accident and I didn't know what I was doing.
No, you busted your fucking ass.
Yeah, like I did that. And I think everybody who is starting out with a side hustle has to do that. You can't just expect to have massive growth without putting in those hours. It's just not going to happen.
It's a grinding when no one's watching. So we've talked about all the highlights and everything, like, oh my God, look how awesome she is, this business. But, you know, what are some of the internal or external struggles that you deal with of getting to where you are, not getting enough sleep when you were doing that side hustle? Or, you know, for me, I've kind of burned relationships in the past and, you know, kind of neglected important people in my life, you know, so, or I deal with comparison on the daily, especially someone like you who's built this empire. You know, I want that too. And what are some of the things that you've dealt with in the past or currently deal with right now?
It's kind of a sensitive issue for me right now. So I've always been good at taking care of myself. I've always needed 8 hours of sleep and I've never compromised on that. And I've always sort of thought that I managed my stress well. But in the past, it was in mid-September, I got diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. And that I didn't realize, but it has a lot to do with your stress levels and your sleep patterns and your hormones and a lot of different things, the way you eat, the way you exercise, all these things. And so to me, I was like, oh, I've always had a really good handle on that. But when I started thinking about it, I was really hustling for a long time and putting a lot of pressure on myself. I had definitely had stress. I just didn't realize that I had that much stress. I thought I managed it well, but it was definitely suppressed in me. And I mean, it's not to say that that's why I got multiple sclerosis. Like it's totally a million different factors, but I think that managing that stuff is a lot more important than people realize, and it can manifest in a lot of different ways. And so these days I'm really making an effort to eat properly, because I never ate properly when I started out. I was just so busy, always on the go, grabbing something quick. So I eat really well, really careful about the exercise that I do and that I'm actually going every day, and all that stuff. So all that to say that that's been a really big struggle for me since the fall.
How do you handle stress?
Like I said, I always thought that I handled it really well. And in fact, when I got diagnosed, my boyfriend was like, well, you're the least stressed person I've ever met. Like you just never present with symptoms of stress.
You seem super chill for sure, even when we met.
And I always feel that way. Like I said, I'm a planner. I always know what I have to do for that day. And then I don't stress out because I get my things done and then I can relax. But it's been interesting with the diagnosis because I have gone to naturopaths and everything now. And she said to me, you might not feel stressed, but your body has had to keep up with you. She's like, you sat here and told me that you run your own business. You were doing it as a side hustle for 2 years. You play hockey 3 times a week. You go to the gym every day. You like all these things that the average person would feel stressed about. She's like, you just named all those things like so nonchalantly, but really your body's had to keep up with all of this. So even though you might not feel stressed, you've been putting stress on yourself. So now it's giving myself and just being so much more conscious about that stress. Even if I don't feel stressed, I have to recognize that it's there and stop taking on so much stuff, which is really hard as an entrepreneur. I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that. Trying to not take things on is almost even harder than saying yes.
I feel like you're totally saying what my life is right now, because me, like, I do all this stuff, it's nothing. I've slowly just taken one thing on, and over the years I just balance and I make it all work. I don't feel stressed, but like
now you have a baby.
Yeah, and I'm still doing it. So like the hardest thing since little Scotty's been born is figuring what to say no to. Like my wife gives me shit because I'm a planner as well. I'm like, oh shit, I got this date off, what can I fill it with?
Yeah,
it's not just like I got this day off, what can I not do? And that's been the hardest part. But definitely I feel like this year the most, like my health and stress levels or soreness or less sleep, it's all kind of catching up with me. And I feel like you're talking directly to me.
Yeah, it's really hard. And I mean, for me, it took a pretty devastating diagnosis to come to terms with it. But I think for the average person, like really just sit back and think if what you're doing feels good or if you're stressed about it. And if you're too stressed about it, then I mean, everyone's going to feel stressed, especially if you're trying to start a business. But if it's getting to a point that's unmanageable, then why are you doing what you're doing?
Does meditation help you now?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Morning meditation. Mine's been more nighttime to shut off my mind because I can't sleep because my head's running of like 15 things I wish I could do right now.
I've been doing, actually, I used to always only do it in the morning, but I've recently discovered how much I love doing it at night. My boyfriend hates when I put it on when I'm trying to fall asleep, but it is what it is. And yeah, it really, really helps to fall asleep for sure when your mind's going a million miles a minute. But I try and do it in the morning when I can.
Do you get out of bed? You don't like do it right there in bed? Because I would fall asleep. My ass would go right back to sleep if I did it in bed.
Oh, no. You can't do it in bed.
Just like 10 minutes?
Yeah, I usually do 10.
This is the kick in my ass to do this. So thank you. Let's talk about your product line real quick.
Yeah.
I've kind of skimmed over that. There's so many different things I'm asking you. I want to hype you up. You just put out your own kind of line of brush pens that just blew up through Zebra. Do you want to talk about that real quick? Because I'm hoping they're back in stock so we can make something happen here.
At the time of this recording, we're sold out, which is mind-blowing to me.
Tell me, how quickly did they sold out? Come on, I'm going to have you brag. You get to brag here. I'm going to brag for you.
They sold out in 3 hours.
How many?
500 sets.
That's wild. Congratulations.
Thank you. When I placed the original order with Zebra, they asked me if I wanted 1,000 shipped or 500. They would break it up into 2 shipments if I wanted. And I don't know if you know, but it's really expensive to order 500 to 1,000 sets of 6 pens. Like, they're not cheap. So I thought, okay, I'm gonna do 500 and do a little test and see what happens, because I really didn't anticipate them flying that quickly. And yeah, they sold out in 3 hours.
Did they contact you on this idea, or did you pitch them?
My relationship with Zebra is interesting. It's a really fun one. So like I said, I casually mentioned it earlier, but I was on world tour last year for 6 months, and part of that was in Japan. And when I was in Japan, Zebra brought me to their factory, which was really cool. So it was like an episode of How It's Made, if you've ever seen that show. I actually got to see like the whole factory, how they make the pens, and I also saw how they hand inspect all of their actual steel nibs and everything. It's crazy. So I got to go to their factory, and I discovered these brush pens that I had never seen before, these colored brush pens, and I knew that they would blow up in Canada. So as soon as I left that factory, I got in touch with the Zebra Canada team, and I had told them, like, I need to be part of this coming to Canada. And it kind of got put on the shelf for a while. That was over a year ago. And then recently it kind of came back up, and I just worked with them to come up with my own line of them, my own set that I could sell to people. I didn't want to just promote what they were promoting. I wanted to actually make it, a little more special than that. So it's got all my branding on it, and it's a special set that I've asked them to put together of all my favorite Zebra pens. It was kind of a fluke. Like I didn't know these brush pens existed. And as soon as I found them, I was like, I need to get these to people.
I think it's funny. You keep saying things like fluke, but I'm like big into law of attraction and, opportunities, just like Lewis said, opportunities and money and everything shows up to you when you're ready, when you've put in the work, you've hustled, and you put yourself in a position for these things to spontaneously happen to you, like us meeting spontaneously. To me, it was supposed to happen. To me, I don't believe in coincidence. So, I think you were in that position for you to see it. Then you saw that opportunity and you capitalized on it. You took initiative. You didn't wait for it to happen to you.
It's true. I should stop saying that things are flukes, because it's true. It's exactly true what you're saying.
But I like how you do it, because you humanize the situation, but at the same time, your mindset is on a completely different level that I want my listeners to get on as well.
I think I don't give myself enough credit for how much I'm like constantly trying to learn. For some reason, I feel like everybody is doing that, but I think that's not true.
You blowing my mind, and I bust my ass, and I've already learned so much by just studying everything you do. Like, I'm a very big observer, and I study people's sites. I study their language. I study how they engage with their audience. I study how they onboard people. The customer path, the funnel. Yeah, you're crushing it. You're crushing it. You need to give yourself some credit. I'm giving you credit right now.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
No problem. Before we move into rapid fire, what's one piece of advice you'd give your past self when you were just starting out? What do you know now that you wish you would have known, that could really benefit someone right now in the early stages of their side hustle, if they're ready, Seth Godin the dip, if they think they're at the point they're ready to quit? What would you like to tell yourself? What's that thing you needed to hear?
I always come back to, I wish I knew who said this, but done is better than perfect.
Jake Parker.
That's my go-to always for anybody who's like thinking of taking the leap, because I found it really hard at the beginning to just put myself out there and launch. And you got to do that even before it's perfect. And I've been iterating and reiterating and working on this Show Me Your Drills course, and it's still not perfect, but I've been able to quit my job on it and have a really crazy past 2 years because done was better than perfect.
Yeah, your 70, 80, or 90% is always better than someone's 0.
Exactly.
For sure. Word. That hits home with me too, because I'm a perfectionist. We're our own worst art critics, so.
Yeah.
Dope. Rapid fire questions. If you were on death row, what would your last slice of pizza be?
Ooh. Oh, you're not going to like this one. I think it would just be cheese.
I don't care. It's your world. You're dying. From where? You make it or a specific place?
There's this pizza shop in the little tiny area of Ottawa that I grew up in called Emilio's Pizza. If Emilio's is listening, I love you, Emilio.
Sponsor.
Yeah, they make amazing pizza and I haven't had it in years. So probably from there.
Cool. If I ever visit, take me.
Yeah.
If you could have lunch with one person, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
I got to say Seth Godin, because he has completely fired the entrepreneurial spirit in me.
Sweet. Outside of your own brush pens, because we plugged that, what's your go-to brush pen for calligraphy?
So I 99% of the time will use a small black hard tip brush pen. So there are a couple different companies that make good ones. Tombow makes a really good one, the Tombow Fudino Suke, which I've learned how to say.
That's how you say it?
Yeah, well.
Because that's my go-to. Can you say it one more time?
Fudino Suke.
Okay.
Yeah. And so when I was in Japan, someone corrected me. And then almost every time I have a live video or anything where I say that word, someone corrects me. Apparently there are multiple different ways you can say it, but that's how I say it. So they make that one, and then Zebra makes another one, which is in my set, but you said outside of Zebra. So yeah, that Tombow one. And then I also use Micron pens all the time, which I think is pretty standard.
Yeah, my on-ramping for calligraphy was learning with the smaller hard tip. It's way easier than those long brushes from like Tombow. So
yeah, and they're becoming a lot more readily available now, so people can find them pretty easily and learn that way.
Cool. Where do you seek your inspiration online and offline?
Online, I follow a lot of artists who are in similar areas. Like they do lettering, but they do different lettering than I do. The flip side of that coin is I purposely don't follow people who are doing exactly what I'm doing because it stresses me out. So yeah, that's where I get it online.
Like Instagram more specifically? Big
time Instagram. And I also, that has sort of changed in the past little while. I try not to get too much inspiration from online because I need to try and get offline a little bit more. And so to answer that side of the question, I get my inspiration from nature. And that's such a cliche answer, but it's really true. I have this huge window right in front of me as I'm sitting at my desk, and I can always be looking outside while I'm working. So that's a big one.
Before I ask this last one of where can people go and follow and support you, I'm a huge believer in UFOs. Have you ever seen one up in Canada? I heard that's a hot spot.
I can't say I have, but I'll let you know if I do.
Cool. You weren't expecting that one. All right.
No,
So
I really wasn't.
Where can people go to follow and support you online?
So my Instagram is my main platform. It's just at the Happy Ever Crafter. People always forget so the Happy Ever Crafter. And my website's the same, thehappyevercrafter.com. And if you want to join my free program, it's showmeyourdrills.com. That only launches twice a year, but it's always open in the meantime. So you will not be joining with the rest of the group of students if you don't join in the certain periods, but it's always open so you can join and get stuff retroactively.
Becca, thank you so much. Like I already was impressed, but now getting to talk to you and go deeper diver into like your business and your background and the hustle that got you to where you are today. I have an insane amount of respect for you. Like I don't know many people who do it, put in more work than you have as you built this. So thank you so much for your time. I know you got a lot of other things going on right now, so we appreciate you having here in the value shed today.
Thanks so much for having me.
Cool. We'll keep in touch, all right?
Yeah.
All right. Peace. All right, PC family, there you have it. Becca Courtice, aka the Happy Ever Crafter, holding down Canada for us. If you want to learn calligraphy and take your crafting game to the next level, I highly encourage you to follow her on Instagram, take advantage of her freebies, join her Show Me Your Drill courses, and join her private Facebook group. Becca, you are a beast, and I know we appreciate your time, knowledge, and transparency today. You're doing it right. And PC family, you know the drill. Go shower Becca with some love if what she had to say today made an impact on you. Thanks, Becca. Moving on to the listener of the week. And this one goes to Juliana Soares, titled Kitsuyumi from Brazil. She states, Scotty is doing an amazing job with this podcast, and I couldn't be more grateful than I am now. I was lost after finishing college, and he was my light. Thank you so much. That was sweet, simple, to the point, and if you didn't notice, it's from Brazil, so I can read your international reviews, so please leave them, because if you want to get a listener of the week and a shout out on a future episode like this, the show notes and newsletter, all you have to do is subscribe. Please subscribe in the Apple Podcast app. Leave a rating and review, and I will return the love by giving you a public shout out. And just so you know why the subscription part is so important, my goal is to be a top 10 design arts podcast by 2020 here right on Apple Podcasts. And by your subscription, your rating and review, you can help me climb and make that goal happen. So it's a win-win. You scratch my back, I want to scratch yours too. And as I wrap things up, I want to give a huge thank you to my podcast editor, Áine Brennan, and my executive assistant, Paige Garland. I could not do this without you two ladies. Thank you so much for your time and effort. And a huge thanks goes to Nick Jenkins of Blookah for all the dope theme music you hear on this show. He's got a new EP dropping this month, and I will be plugging it here. Listen, I'll be blowing you up with all his good music. So listen and support him at SoundCloud, Spotify, and Instagram at Blookah. That's Blookah. And as you finish off your week strong and you start your year off with a bang, I want to continue to encourage you to keep showing up, keep putting in the work, and keep creating. You got this.